at the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We got to unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. Friday, December 20th. I'm Dean Obeidallah, your needy MBFF. I hope you're having a good day. We're heading into holiday weeks. We will be here Monday, Thursday, and Friday of next week, and the same for the following week. And through it all, the entire holiday, whatever you celebrate or don't celebrate, you can count on one thing. Donald Trump will be freaking out over Mary impeachments. It's so... Look, I'm not cruel as a human being. I'm not. I don't enjoy seeing people suffer, but I make an exception for Donald J. Trump. And why do I enjoy his suffering? Because Donald Trump has caused such personal suffering for so many communities. It's not about politics. It's not about policy. It's personal. He's attacked us. He's demonized us. He's caused a spike in hate crimes against every minority communities in 2015 at different levels. So I am glad he is freaking there saying, Dad's angry. Ivanka was on some pre-tape of something. Dad's angry. Yeah, well, you know what? The framers of the Constitution are rolling over in their grave. So it's all fine. And last night, Democratic debate, we're going to touch on that. And what I was happy about, because on the show last night, if you tuned in, we had an economist who broke down where we are nonpartisan way from an economic point of view. And he was very honest, very fair. Overall, he said right now, he'd say the economy is getting a B. It's been sliding since Trump took over in certain sectors. But the reality is the wealthy have gotten wealthier. The income inequality gap has grown and people are struggling out there. Many are struggling. And the Democrats are not talking about it. Well, last night, Bernie Sanders talked about it. Talked about the very point made on this show, not because of this show, but I'm so glad he talked about it. There's been no wage growth for working class Americans. And here's Bernie, clip number 1, please.
Real inflation accounted for wages went up last year 1.1%. That ain't great. Tonight, while 3 people own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 500,000 Americans, including 30,000 veterans, are sleeping out on the streets. Today in America, we have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth. More income and wealth inequality since the 1920s. We need an economy that works for working families, not just the 1%. That is what our campaign is about.
And I'm glad he's taking the fight, and Liz Warren touched on it as well, taking the fight to the Donald Trump charade that the economy is amazing, unbelievable. Sure, it is great if you're one of the wealthy donor class that give money to Donald Trump and even some Democrats because of tax cut. You're doing great. But as Bernie screamed right there, it's not like he speaks, he screamed that wage growth, as the Economist said yesterday in a nonpartisan way, wage growth this year average 3%. Inflation nearly 2%. Meaning the average American this year in 2019, while the stock market's hitting all-time highs, is seeing a 1% increase in their wages. Because that's the difference in this country between workers and the wealthy. And it's getting more and more acute, where it's becoming dangerously acute, where we're losing the middle class. And in fact, today we learned more economic news. U.S. Steel today announced they are closing a mill near Detroit, laying off nearly 2,000 workers and cutting their dividend. The company said they're trying to reverse operating losses. They now forecast in the fourth quarter. The mill called the Great Lakes Works expected to close its iron and steelmaking operations by April 1st. And, you know, I've said this on the show before. There is a bubble. There's some disconnect out there because you look at the numbers, and we went through them with the Economist yesterday. When you look at the percentage of Americans who are working or looking for work, that's known as a labor participation rate. If the economy was booming, you would have seen that spike during the time of Trump, right? It makes sense. A lot of jobs are out there. People who stop working, looking for work, get off the couch, start working again, right? Well, it's almost identical today as it is when Trump took office in January 2017. It's gone up 0.03%. 0.03, not 3%, 0.03. Not even 0.5%. So what's happening, you have jobs being created, taken by the same person who's working 2 and 3 jobs in some case to pay their bills. They need the Democrats to start making an issue. Now, if you watched the debate last night, the phrase of the night is wine cave. That's right, wine cave. If you didn't watch it, you have no idea what I'm talking about. But Liz Warren will play a clip here, talked about Mayor Pete Buttigieg having a fundraiser at a place called a wine cave. I didn't know that existed. Never heard of it. But here she is on that issue. Clip number 2, please. No, I'm sorry. Clip number 3.
So the mayor just recently had a fundraiser that was held in a wine cave full of crystals and served $900 a bottle wine. Think about who comes to that. He had promised that every fundraiser he would do would be open door, but this one was closed door. We made the decision many years ago that rich people in smoke-filled rooms would not pick the next president of the United States. Billionaires in wine caves should not pick the next president of the United States.
So the wine cave, there was really a fundraiser Mayor Pete had in Rutherford, California, at Hall Wines. It's called a wine cave. It was very upscale, very expensive wine there, and these great expensive crystals and everything. And to me, this whole debate they had between Mayor Pete and Liz Warren, and Mayor Pete going, well, Liz Warren, before you recently in the last few years said, I'm not taking money from these kind of people, you were taking money from them and you were having these fundraisers, which is true, which is ultimately an argument for public financing of our campaigns because we have legal corruption right now. It is legalized corruption that you can give candidates money and through super PACs, unlimited money. Of course, it's not directly to them, but it's a super PAC and they know about it and they know who's helping them. But I wish we had public financing because you'd get a different group of people who might run for office as well. So I'm not going to say better, maybe better, but definitely different. Don't have to be wealthy. Because think about it. Even if you just want to run for Congress, say, you know what? I'm motivated. I want to go run for the United States House of Representatives. That is noble. I think that is great. The problem is, you have to take off from your job 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year, especially depending what field you work in. If you work in an area where they don't allow politics for your work, you're unemployed. You're making no income. Who can do that? Upper middle class, generally wealthy people in reality. That's why there's so many millionaires in Congress, because that's who can afford to do it. So to me, the fight over financing of campaigns, look, they have to raise money to run. I'm glad, I think universally they've rejected money from Big Pharma and from fossil fuel companies, but you've got to change the laws. They have to have all the weaponry they need to take on Donald Trump. And a corrupt system does not mean you have to be corrupted. And we have to make sure we have a candidate who has the principles that if they're getting money from these companies, that it's outweighed, at least in their personal interest and their priorities, by us, the people. So you got that. The line of the whole debate to me was this one. It was a question asked to Liz Warren. Let's hear clip number 2, please, Nina.
Senator Warren, you would be the oldest president ever inaugurated. I'd like you to weigh in as well.
I'd also be the youngest woman ever inaugurated.
Nice. Well played. There were some good moments in the debate. If you want to chat about that, I'm happy to talk about it. But I want to talk about something else. It is near the end of the year. It's holiday time. You reflect on the year. And I reflected on something and wrote about it today for NBC News, their think page. That's their opinion page. But I was wrong. I was definitely fundamentally wrong on an issue. And I advocated it so much on this show, and time showed me I was wrong. And here's the blunt reality. Many of you were wrong as well. So let me share what I'm talking. Not all of you. Some got it right. Many, but I am making this about me. I'm not saying anyone else. If you want to say you were wrong, if you want to say you weren't wrong, that's fine. I know I was wrong. And I'm talking about Nancy Pelosi and her timing and her schedule for the impeachment of Donald Trump. To remind everybody, after the Mueller report was released in April, And it didn't find crimes Trump had committed in terms of a conspiracy with the Russians. It did find that Russia knew that they wanted Trump to win, and the Trump campaign definitely knew they would electorally benefit from it. But they did not find crimes there. They did find 10 possible instances of obstruction of justice. And Mueller wrote, if we had confidence after a thorough investigation of the facts that the president clearly did not commit obstruction, we would have stated that. So there I was like, that set off a firestorm. So many of us were saying this is enough to start impeachment. Remember that? April, May, June, people calling in, what's going on? In June, a Gallup poll found 81% of Democrats, think about that, 81% of Democrats supported beginning impeachment proceedings against Trump. Yet Pelosi refused to move. And, in late July, Pelosi, very steadfast, said, we will proceed when we have what we need to proceed, not 1 day sooner. And she added, everybody has a liberty and luxury to espouse their own position and to criticize me for trying to go down the path in the most determined, positive way. So she said, you can criticize me if you want. And criticize her we did. And I did. On this very show, we had numerous conversations in the summer about this issue, slamming her. Some people I recall, as I noted in my article for NBC, called the show and said, is she being blackmailed? Or even worse, is she trying to help Trump get reelected? What's going on? I had quiet conversations with pundits who go on TV who would never say this out loud, but were saying, I think Speaker Pelosi wants Trump to get reelected because it'll help her keep control of the House. There's all this stuff going on. I never said that, but that's what people were saying. And I too wondered why the delay. In fact, I went on Joy Reid's show numerous times in the summer and criticized Speaker Pelosi, citing the opinion polls, going, I can assure you if 70 or 80% of the Republican base wanted something, the leadership of the GOP, who is scared of their base, would give them what they want. In our case, our leadership ignored us. I said things like that. I even wrote an article for CNN in the summer criticizing Speaker Pelosi. Why is she helping Donald Trump? I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong. Because when you look back now at what was going on at that time, Speaker Pelosi understood, first of all, her Democratic caucus and how many members would come across for impeachment. And secondly, public opinion. And let me remind everyone, because I had forgotten this, but let me remind everyone, at the time in the summer when we were all pushing for impeachment and 80% of Democrats were on board, at the time only 38% of Americans supported impeachment. Only 38%, 54% opposed it. At the time in the House Democratic caucus, only 100 members of the House were on board with impeachment. There's 235 members that were not even of the Democratic caucus, not even close. So Pelosi saying, call me what you want, criticize me, we are not ready, and I'm not going forward till I think we are ready to go, if ever. And of course, that changed in early September when Donald Trump's phone confession was released by him. And in that, very clearly, Donald Trump, point blank in the confession he released to us, said, investigate Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and get Rudy Giuliani and Bill Barr. So he's using the apparatus of government. No doubt about it. And Pelosi moved swiftly then, beginning just within a few weeks, formal impeachment inquiry, saying Trump had betrayed his oath of office, betrayed our national security, and betrayed the integrity of our elections. And public opinion shifted. You had it jump from 39% to nearly 50% of the times, like 48%, shortly after she declared we're going for an impeachment inquiry. And it's been building ever since, depending on the polls. Some are tighter, some are a little lower. But the Fox News poll that came out Sunday showed 50% of Americans in a Fox News poll support impeach and remove of Trump. At the same time, Pelosi understood that her caucus was not on board with this. So I was, many of you were, the caucus wasn't. She never could have gotten a majority. And that changed. And look at the vote was. Look at the remarkable skill and strategy of Speaker Pelosi. You have countless Democrats in swing districts facing going to be challenging re-elections. Out of all the Democrats in the House, out of the over 200, only 2 voted no on Article 1. Only 3 voted no on Article 2. And that one of them became a Republican. So he actually was a Republican, Jeff Van Drew. You know, it made me think back. In 2018, Barack Obama summed up Nancy Pelosi well. He said, Her skill, tenacity, toughness, vision is remarkable. And he added, her ability to stand her ground and do hard things and to suffer unpopularity to get the right thing done stands up against any person that I've observed or worked directly with in Washington during my lifetime. She's right. I mean, he's right. Pelosi's skill is unmatched. In fact, tonight, she is saying, literally just a short time ago, in response to Republicans saying she's afraid to bring the articles of impeachment over because the trial is going to be bad, she said, I'm not afraid of anything. The trial will start when I want it to start. How cool is that? She's the boss. Speaker Pelosi is the boss. That's it. No doubt about it. And her withholding of the articles is exactly as so many of us recommended. With that, she's playing chess grandmaster strategy. And I think she did the same thing with impeachment. While we were sitting there and pushing for it, she knew she didn't have the votes in her caucus nor a public opinion that would support it and would hurt the caucus and hurt the Democrats. And to be honest, if they just did impeachment on the 10 potential instances of obstruction, when I went back through them and looked at them, there were only a few that were really, I think one or two that felt like ironclad. So many others were missing one element. Like Trump told someone to obstruct justice and they didn't do it. Told Don McGahn to go do it. And McGahn's like, I'm not doing it. That kind of stuff. And I don't think too many Americans would have said, hey, remove him from office, because it actually didn't happen. But this is where we are right now. So that's why I have to say in this holiday season, I was wrong. Speaker Pelosi was right. And I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Was Speaker Pelosi, when you look back now, especially those, and be blunt, if you don't think you were wrong, then tell me. But if you think, you know what, I was wrong, Speaker Pelosi was right, and that's what I feel. I feel 100%. In fact, today, with my article that for NBC News, Christine Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, actually tweeted it and tagged me and said, this is refreshing. It's nice to see. I could read it to you after the break, actually, what she said. And I'll be honest, in July, I wrote an article when I was very critical of Pelosi. Pelosi's people reached out to me and CNN pushing back. They were upset with that. So now, and I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong. That's it. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, I was wrong. If we started impeachment, then we never would have gotten where we are today. I just don't see it happening. And she was right. Now, did she know Donald Trump would commit more crimes? Not definitely. But you know Trump. We know him. He's a criminal. He's a sociopath. That's why people might go like, well, if you hold the articles of impeachment, he's not going to do something wrong now. Are you kidding me? Donald Trump, the day after Mueller testifies, picks up the phone and asks Zelensky to interfere in the 2020 election. Asking Ukraine. Trump might commit a crime over the holiday break, and we'll find out about it in January. And you add more articles. So Speaker Pelosi is right, and this is the right thing she did. People can disagree with her on other things. That's fine. I was wrong. She was right. What do you think? What do you think about withholding the articles of impeachment? Let's take calls 866-997-4748. Be right back after this break.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.